project announced Friday includes a planned 10-gigawatt data center and up to 10 gigawatts of new power generation, most of it fueled by natural gas, along with billions in grid upgrades. Officials say the initiative will create thousands of jobs and support AI growth while keeping electricity costs down. Keith Peters, Washington.
CBS News said Friday it will shut down its storied radio news service after nearly 100 years of operation as the world moves on to digital sources and podcasting. When it went on the air back in 1927, the service became the precursor to the entire network. Breaking news and analysis at townhall.com. More than 99.999% of the 26 million plus March Madness brackets entered at ESPN have already been busted. It was much the same over at the NCAA's bracket challenge. Only 234 error-free entries remain. Martial arts grandmaster and action star Chuck Norris has passed away.
In a 1993 interview, Morris says he took up martial arts for a reason.
I was a very shy kid growing up, very, timid. By nature, I'm not assertive. So I had to develop that, and I couldn't do that without the confidence that I had gotten from my martial arts training.
In 2010, Norris was already a popular film and TV star, but he had a favorite.
The 8.5 years on doing the Walker series was probably the most rewarding 8 years of my film career.
While his tough man image became the stuff of legend, Chuck Norris was 86. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
More on these stories at townhall.com.
Join your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvitt on our weekly radio hour, Chief Guard of the Republic, where we talk about all things national security, defense, personal security, safety, and dealing with law enforcement situations. Call in 847-931-1410. Ask us questions. We will get you answers. Every week, Saturday, noon to 1 on 1410 AM WRMN Elgin. Streaming on WRMN1410.com. Chat with us on WRMN's YouTube live channel.
Chicago defense attorney Mark Schieblo has co-authored the book titled DUI Jury Trial, which is a true story of a DUI case that he defended. The accused was an Illinois truck driver arrested for driving under the influence of alcohol. This book contains facts about the case from the date of the arrest up to the jury's verdict, and this nonfiction novel also includes the transcripts from the jury trial itself. The book DUI Jury Trial is now available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com.
Fixed bayonets, comrades. This is the Chief Guard of the Republic radio show with your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvitt every Saturday, noon until 2 on WRMN 1410. You could listen live. There's the website's down, but they still have radio, the radio apps out there that bring in 1410. So there's, you can't hit listen live on the website, but if you just Google WRMN 1410, it'll give you a site where you can stream it. And I know because I streamed it on the way in this morning. And you can call us in on 847-931-1410 or text us at 505-926-1410. And as always, you can hit us up in WRMN 1410's YouTube live channel and hit us up with the comments there. Hey, Paul, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm a little under the weather, but that's my own fault. I went to a party last night for the Schiller Park First political party, and it was a good time. Yeah, maybe too good of a time for me.
Okay.
But all right. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is that the shutdown for DHS. When they had the whole government shutdown, it was all in the news and everything. And now DHS is shut down. And the only thing you really hear about it is TSA. So people are being inconvenienced at the airports. And I realize there's inconvenience and then there's inconvenience. I guess the airport is really inconvenient. And they say that's for staffing issues and everything. Although they told these guys working at TSA there that, hey, you're still, you're going to get paid eventually, but you haven't received a check yet, but we want you to continue working. And that's happened with the military at previous shutdowns. But what happens is a lot of people working there get upset, and they have what we on the police department used to call the blue flu. where everyone would call in sick on like key days and everything to show our dismay for the city or whatever. But at this point, it's should people be working without pay? Well, they're civil servants, right? And if you don't want to work, if you don't want to do your pay isn't your pay is based on government funding, which has to go through the House of Representatives, then Senate, then get approved by the president, right? So unless that happens, there's no control. You can't go in and sue. I guess someone could try. You could have a federal judge give an injunction and say, well, you're still going to pay him, but with what money? Well, just print it up and pay it. So I'm kind of irked at it because right now we have a situation still going on in the Middle East. Right? Well, the Straits of Hormuz, that's the big thing, and you could tell that that's a problem because you could tell that at every gas pump in the nation. So we're in a state of what do you call it? We're in a fight against another country for whatever reason, but you would want to have your best protection for your home, your country. And Congress is sitting there the Senate, because the bill's in the Senate, waiting. It won't even be brought up to be, they won't bring it up to vote on it because they don't have the Senate majority leader says they don't have the votes, so why do we even vote on it, right? Make them, force them to do it. I mean, people could say that's been my argument, that these guys are just so lazy that they like, well, they said they wouldn't vote for it, so I'm not even going to bring it up. And I don't agree with that at all. It's like there's only one guy keeping this from not being voted on, and that's the Senate majority leader. Right, Paul?
Yes.
Yeah. And then they go on, these guys a lot of these guys are working, like I said, without pay. The whole Coast Guard, because they fall under like a type of military jurisdiction, right? If they don't show up for work, it's called AWOL, and it's called dishonorable discharge, which really messes with your future life. And, all the other things. You could lose rank and everything else. So these guys are required by law to show up, even though they're not getting paid. So, they don't, maybe the groceries aren't going to be there. They don't a lot of these guys don't have enough credit, or maybe their credit's maxed out. How are they going to live without the money? And so kind of holding those guys hostage and using their suffering to push an issue that you have with the Department of Homeland Security functioning as designed. So I looked up legally, when the president pro tem of the Senate, the majority leader, because they elected their own officers, other than the vice president, right, who is the president of the Senate, therefore breaking tie votes, but the majority leader of the Senate can call them into session. That's their rules. But he could adjourn them. They could also have a motion to adjourn, and with a simple majority vote, they could adjourn. Right? But the president, under Article 2, Section 3 of the Constitution of the United States, under extraordinary occasions, can call Congress into session. He could call them into session, even though the president of the majority leaders haven't called them into session. He could bring them right into session, and he could do that anytime he wants, whenever he wants, for extraordinary occasions. And I've looked it up, and there has been no constitutional challenge to this. The Supreme Court hasn't ruled on that, right? They rule on other things, the careful, the mindful carefulness, stuff like that, but they have not ruled on the extraordinary occasions. So, like I said, if I was dealing with a squad, if I was a company commander, right, and I wanted something done, right, and these guys weren't getting it done, we're not going home. We're not going home until you get it done. But we don't have the votes, but we got this, but we got that. No, you're staying in session. You're staying right here. You know, and every time they have a motion to adjourn, I filibuster the motion. Because every time you have a motion, you have, you know, Robert's Rules of Order, you have, is there any discussion, right? So then I get up and I start discussing, not myself. Well, if I was a senator, I'd be on, you got to have one guy on your side there, right? That's going to go up and filibuster that and keep them there in session. You know, and you know, lock the doors on them, lock them in. You know? Keep doing it. And here's something, I don't think I've hidden my pro-life stance on anything, all right? And I've stated that I'm also against the death penalty, right? So I'm really kind of pro-life on this. And the last time the Supreme Court ruled on the overdid Roe versus Wade, overturned it. They said, well, that should go back to the states, right? And they were screaming that, oh, this is terrible, this is terrible, this is terrible. Yet, at that time, the Democrats had the majority in Congress, all right, and in the Senate, you know, in the House of Representatives, in the Senate, and they had a sitting president. So why didn't they make a federal law for that? Because as soon as it would be put up for a vote, then Durbin, other Catholic, other evangelical, you know, leaders would get thrown out of their churches, or they would have to vote against it because their constituents would say, hey, wait a second. Now, but until they get that vote on there, right? Until they put that vote in, they could wishy-washy and say, well, I don't like it because it's got too many words in it and they need to reduce the amount of words. They don't have to say that they don't like it because it violates some of their key beliefs and their wishy-washy politicians. So the same thing with the funding bill and the Save America Act, right? That's one that's sitting there. It's not being voted on because they like, oh, well, they'll filibuster it. Oh, and well, okay, make them do it. And then make them vote. You know, they'll filibuster before they get to a vote or whatever because they don't want it on record that they voted against that, right? They don't want it on record that they're going to vote against the funding. They don't want it on record. But once you put it up for a vote, once you get it up for that vote there, right, then they're on record. Then the American people can see what did they vote for, what did they vote against. Right now, there's no record of will they, could they, should they, maybe. You know, in a dream world, if this had been put up to a vote, they would have voted against it. You can't say that because it hasn't happened. So put them on record. Put them on record. You know, put them on record. It's a basic thing, and they're sitting there knowing that, knowing that, oh, it's lazy. It's just laziness. You know, it's laziness on everyone's part, and it shows a lack of true leadership, right? True leadership is when you force an issue on something. Oh, nothing's getting done. Okay, but we're going to vote on it. And we talked about it a couple shows ago, right? How you can overdo the filibuster. It's just one guy gets up there, right? And he motions that he motions there be no debate that this not be a debatable item, right? So I motion it's not a debatable item. The president, by the rules of the Senate, having to go by the rules of the Senate, says your motion is overruled. This is a debatable item because it involves funding, right? And he goes, I appeal to the floor, right? And then they have a vote, yay or nay, right? Yay or nay. And all you need is 51%. You need to have 50 vote plus your vice president there if necessary, right? 51 votes. And that passes the rules of the Senate now, right? Now that's a non-debatable item. So they can't filibuster it. And all it needs is a simple majority vote. The only thing that a 60% vote is for is to quash a filibuster. That's it. That's all it's there for. Everything's a majority vote. That's all it's there for, is to quash that. And so they use that as an excuse. We can't have this because they'll just filibuster. Okay, you want to filibuster? Get up there. Talk. As soon as you stop talking, we'll put it up for a vote. Make them do it. This is what if territory, It's just them doing what if. Oh, they'll do this. Prove it. Make them prove it. Like the Missouri, show me state. All right, you want to do it? Show me. Yep, I'm ready for it. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's really sad. You know what though? This kind of smacks of authoritarianism and stuff like that. And the reason why I bring this up, something happened about a year ago to our sometimes friendly neighbors to the north. They had basically had to have elections up in Canada, and Trudeau had decided that he wasn't going to be the prime minister anymore, and he did a funny thing, and I had never heard of this before, and it's kind of like what you mentioned in Article 2, Section 3, which I guess something similar could happen. He did something called prorogue the legislature. So basically, the legislature has to be in session, otherwise the government is out. So what he did is he forces a layoff or a adjournment of the legislature. So he forced it for 3 months. Okay. And then in that time, they elected this guy, or decided that this guy Carney was going to be the prime minister. And then when they came back, they geared up for the election. And at the time, they were reeling from COVID restrictions and high taxes, and the fact that they have 99-year mortgages up there because nobody could afford a house and everything. And Pierre Poilievre was the odds-on favorite to replace he's more conservative, kind of like the Canadian Donald Trump. And then during that time, Trump did a lot of stuff with the tariffs, and then the Canadians got mad. So they put in Carney. But I had never heard of this prorogue, a legislature before.
Parole? Well, in the same article of our Constitution, the president can come in, and no president has done it. He can adjourn Congress. He can come in and say, you're adjourned.
Maybe now's the time for him to do it and see what happens. I don't know. I just think it's really kind of strange. And, it's almost, it smacks of, well, I'm going to take my bat and ball and you guys can't play anymore.
It's absolutely that childish.
Yeah, I'm not getting my way, so we're forcing you to shut down. And we're going to hurt everybody, even your supporters, our supporters, and we're just going to lay it off on you and say that if you didn't do this, we wouldn't have to do this.
Because they have the press behind them, and the press will what do you call it? Spin it in their favor.
They'll rubber stamp it for them. You know,
they'll like, oh, this isn't the Schumer shutdown. This isn't a Schumer shutdown.
No, this is all Trump's fault.
It's all Trump's fault because here's they say the person running for Senate in Illinois now is a Democrat was like called ICE and Border Patrol rogue agencies because they're doing their job as designed, as outlined in the U.S. Code. They are doing their jobs, absolutely outlined in the U.S. Code. They're absolutely doing their jobs properly. Calls them a rogue agency because they're actually doing their job, right? Hey, why are you guys following the rules we wrote for you? Right? So and she gets on that, and then all they're running is like these guys are still out there doing their jobs without pay. Now, right? TSA is still supposed to be out there doing their job without pay, but they're spinning up to how does this affect all right, it's not a problem till it's a problem, the greatest line in the world, it's not a problem till it's a problem. So don't worry about it, right? Because it's not a problem until it's a problem. That's what I would like to do. But my anxiety, I see every problem out there. Everything's a problem, But if something happens to the United States where the United States is attacked on account of a decrease in the efficiency of the Department of Homeland Security, that's going to hurt people bad. More than, we got a few TSA TSA workers decided to give themselves a month off, They decided to give themselves a month off, and so people are standing in longer lines at the airport. Or intentional slowdowns, right? Intentional slowdowns where the TSA agents are protesting the fact that they didn't get a paycheck by slowing the system down. Not doing their job as efficiently, or being overzealous in their job for the practice safety. How do you think this? How would you solve it, Paul? How would you solve if you were the majority leader in the Senate?
Well, I think I'd be calling the thing for a vote, and see what happens.
Yeah, throw it up for a vote. You gotta. What is it?
The problem is everybody thinks that all groups are one-minded or monolithic, and they're not. And even conservatives are. You could see it recently with the fracturing of the former Congressman Marjorie Taylor Greene and Nancy Mace and all that. They have a fundamental commonality, but the problem is always in the details. Okay. And a lot of the times, Rand Paul is considered to be very conservative. And, a lot of the Republicans are conservative. Yet Rand Paul will be the one that screws everything up. And the Democrats know that because they know that he's so conservative, they'll get him to throw out something that would be more moderate. But he's so conservative that he doesn't like it. And they play on that and they make that a weakness. But they themselves, if they get 62% of what they want, they'll vote for it. With our side, it's got to be like 98% or it's a no-go. And there's very often nothing that fits that bill. So we've actually hamstrung ourselves because we have to be like in the top 90s or we don't get it. They just have to be a little bit past the middle and then they'll vote on it and it'll be something that'll wreck the whole country. And that's where the problem is. And we can't see, there's a theory, I'm afraid to walk in the forest because I don't know what's beyond the next bend. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you never know till you get to that bend. So let's at least get there.
Yeah, that's the whole thing, and it's using that same theory of fear, but to mask your laziness. I didn't want to go for a walk in the woods today. All right, we'll see you back after the commercial breaks for the second quarter of the Chief Guard of the Republic show here on WRMN 1410 AM. Want to read some action-packed, exciting pulp fiction? Read the works of Michael Tooman, now featuring the international crime thriller, I Married a Bot Madam. Available on Amazon in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle editions. The paperback is also available at other book retailers. Check out Michael Tooman's webpage at Silink.net. That's Papa, Sierra, Yankee, Lima, India, November, Kilo. November, Echo, Tango.
At Britain's Touchless Car Wash, they know life gets busy. That's why they're here 24/7 to keep your car looking spotless, fast, and easy. Their advanced brush-free wash technology delivers a sparkling clean without a single scratch, because they treat your car like it's their own. Here's the best part. Right now, you can get a free car wash just for joining their text club. It's simple. Just text BRITT to 30400, and your first wash is on them. Britain's Touchless Car Wash has two convenient locations, 1923 Larkin Avenue in Elgin and 555 Willow in West Dundee. They're proud to keep your car clean while giving back to our community. Text BRITT to 30400. That's BRITT to 30400. Now for your free car wash, and see why Britain's Touchless Car Wash is the fast, gentle, and reliable choice.
Kick off your weekend with a little flair. It's Dino's Night Out, every Friday from 2 to 4 p.m. on WRMN 1410 AM. Dino brings you the best of the Fox Valley's entertainment scene. Live music, local artists, street festivals, great eats, and the personalities behind them. If it's happening, Dino's talking about it. And bringing the spotlight is none other than the legendary Arcada Theater, located at 105 East Main Street in St. Charles. Catch dinner, drinks, and a show, all under one historic roof. So whether you're making plans or just love to know what's hot, make it a date with Dino's Night Out, Fridays, 2 to 4 p.m. on WRMN 1410 AM, or stream it live at WRMN1410.com. Dino's Night Out, powered by the Arcada Theater, where Fox Valley comes to play.
Most people out here think that taking care of one another is important. And most people would step up for a neighbor going through a tough time. Most people around here help out friends and family when they need it. But the funny thing is, most of us won't look for help when we need it. If you're struggling with mental health, you should know that there are resources out there that can help. And it's okay to talk about it if you need to. One place to get started with information is loveyourmindtoday.org. Loveyourmindtoday.org offers a range of guides, instructions, and insights for dealing with difficult situations or getting through a tough time. If you're struggling with mental health, Get the help you need, because most people out here really care. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
Join your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvitt on our weekly radio hour, Chief Guard of the Republic, where we talk about all things national security, defense, personal security, safety, and dealing with law enforcement situations. Call in 847-931-1410. Ask us questions. We will get you answers. Every week, Saturday, noon to 1 on 1410 AM WRMN Elgin. Streaming on WRMN1410.com. Chat with us on WRMN's YouTube live channel. Big Spin X, comrades, and I don't think I'm going to go through the whole rigmarole with this is your co-host Paul Burvitt and Mike Tooman, because that commercial right before said it all.
I don't know.
Well, I'll give you the numbers though. 847-931-1410 call-in number here. So Paul, from
Yes.
the files under it's not a problem till it's a problem, right?
Uh-huh.
I wrote out a list of the agencies or the agencies within the Department of Homeland Security. And
Okay.
who created the Department of Homeland Security?
That was right after the attacks on 9/11.
Okay, yeah, okay, that's right. And so that would have been a Bush era thing. And that,
Right.
you know, to sort of concentrate and to protect us, right? To protect
Remember,
us.
that's when we had the green, yellow, orange, red symbol every day. We check, and the radio would say that we're under a red alert today, or we're under an orange alert today, and then
It's never
we
green.
changed from colors to other stuff. Remember?
Yeah. I have that in the military too. All right, so you got Customs and Border Patrol, all right? And making sure that people aren't bringing in like stuff they're not supposed to, you know, stuff that's banned, like invasive species, right? That'll come in. Some guy brings a hive of African killer bees, you know? It's like, and no one's there to stop him. And he just wants to bring it in, right? That's dangerous, very dangerous, unbelievably dangerous, like biological warfare. But you're also patrolling the border for people coming over illegally. And now people can be vectors. A vector is like a mosquito that carries a disease like malaria, dengue fever, yellow fever, all right? They carry that stuff and they pass it on to people. Well, people already carrying these diseases, mumps, measles, smallpox, that we've eliminated, we thought worldwide in our country, but obviously there's some mountain villages that still have this stuff running in there. And now the people come in and they cause another pandemic because no one stopped them, no one checked them. They didn't go through any vetting process, right? So yeah, you want to protect your borders, and you want to protect your borders from terrorists, sleeper cells, you know, people that are known international criminals or at least very large criminals in their own countries coming here. Then you got the ICE, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, right? And those are the guys that are going, you know, the people that have the illegal immigrants, right? They're looking for people working illegally here and everything else. And they're, again, Immigration Customs Enforcement. They're still, you know, the customs that the people aren't smuggling in like diamonds and stuff that they would have to pay customs on if they brought them in the legal way. All right. But that, again, it protects our borders from stuff that's supposed to come in. The biggest one, though, is the Coast Guard. I mean, how do they get this fentanyl and everything in? Well, they get it in through our coastlines, through our water lines, which, you know, we got a lot of oceanfront property in the United States. That's a lot to patrol, but they're also there for safety. You know, Coast Guard is guarding the coast, but they're also there safety. You know, to ensure that, you know, our waterways are safe and accessible, because we do a lot of our logistics via the waterways. Those are some of just some of them. Federal FEMA. Here we go. Here's it's not a problem till it's a problem. So ask the people in North Carolina what happens when you have a weaponized FEMA. Right?
Yeah, nothing gets done, no repairs.
Nothing gets done. Or ask the people in Ohio there, right? When the train went over.
Yep.
And that's a fully funded FEMA.
Right.
Right? Of course, they had a little bit of shakeup, and people are starting to toe the line, and the deep state is trying to hide its true feathers. They changed their coat. Oh, I'm not a deep state guy because I like my job, and I'm just waiting for the regime to change, and then I'll be back to if you got a conservative sign in your front yard, I'm not going to come and help you replace your roof that got blown off by the tornado, right? So now, if we have another natural disaster hit, right, or God forbid, an attack by a sleeper cell that could have been removed by Customs and Border Patrol or ICE, right, and a lot of people get hurt, you don't have a fully funded FEMA. And you have people suffering as a result of that. But it hasn't happened yet because they're going, it's not a problem until it's a problem. And then when it does happen, all right, the people holding this funding up and everything, they don't care. They literally don't care. They're like, the peasants are dying. Well, just don't let the stink of their decaying bodies get to my New York apartment, right? Okay. Here's one, right? The Secret Service is under Homeland Security. That's fine by me, right? If I was the president, I'd be like, well, I'm cool with that. Send them all home. Well, what about you? You need protection. I got the military. I'll just bring the Marines in. I'll be surrounded by the Marines. I don't. That drove me nuts whenever I was deployed. And one of these generals would come through, and he didn't have military security. He had contractors. Dude, you don't trust your own people? You don't trust your own MPs to protect you, so you got these contractors with their high-speed, sniper guns and their high-speed, not uniform, civilian clothes and growing their deployment beard and stuff like that. I'm like, dude, use the tools you're given. You got a whole division to protect you. All right? And now see these goofs that have Secret Service protection all the time, and that have the Secret Service investigating threats against them. And they got to get lots of threats from a lot of crazy people out there, right? Just writing into these, and have the senator's staff go, well, no one's picking up at the Secret Service. Well, that's because they're not funded and we sent them home. All right. Federal Protective Services, same thing. They protect the buildings. Now you don't have anyone protecting the building. This is all infrastructure that keeps our government, supposed to keep our government running. It's all infrastructure. The like the Science and Technology Directorate, right? Countering weapons of mass destruction. I'm talking about this right now because we are with not a peer, not even a near peer, but like if you talk about peer threat being on a numerical level, you have Russia, right? You have China. Those would be tier 0 threats to us, right? They could compete as near, we call them near peers because we are the best, right? Right? You never want to say that some country's better than you on this, right? But Iran would be like a tier 1 would be North Korea, right? Not that they would defeat us in an outright war. If it was us versus North Korea, we would win. It would take a bit, but we would win. But they're not. They're tier 1 because of the nuclear weapons, right? They're tier 1 because their ability. They got the nukes, and now they're working on ICBMs to launch the nukes, right? And they have allies, right? So Iran would be like a tier 2, and we're trying to keep them from becoming a tier 1. Right? So we got that there. But as we're trying to counter these weapons of mass production, everything, the weapons of mass destruction, technology changes every day. You fall asleep and go ahead, fall asleep for a month of calculus and see if you can keep up with the rest of the class. It's like not going to happen, right? So we're falling asleep while everyone's moving forward. We're losing technology, right? The protection, at least protection from this stuff. Every threat changes. It grows. It evolves, right? It evolves. Sometimes they devolve because the best way to defeat a computer in chess, Paul, will bash the hell out of it with an axe. Right. It won't be able to play you anymore. You win. Sometimes more technology you get, caveman tactics work better against that. We found that out in Afghanistan. All the technology in the world, you're dealing with cavemen. They use caveman technology, right? So now you got to evolve to the threat, right? And that requires growing. As soon as you put these guys there, in the science division and everything, the guys in the intelligence division, you put them on the bench and they're not doing their job. They're ceasing to grow. They're falling behind in the race because it's all a race out there. So why would you let that happen? If you're, all right, I'm on the staff of a boxer, right? A contender, right? Or I'm on the staff of the champion because we are the champion, right? I'm on Rocky Balboa's staff, right? I'm up there, the fictional boxer there, right? And I'm on his staff and I'm giving him very bad advice. I'm not Mick, right? I'm some other trainer that I hired, whatever. And I'm giving my guy terrible advice. And I'm telling him, oh, you don't need to train. You're the champion. You're as good as you're going to get, right? You don't need to get stronger. You don't need to get faster. You don't need to learn new ways of boxing or anything. You're as good as you're going to get. Don't worry. You beat the last guy. He did all that. He did all of that, and you still beat him, right? Why would you be doing that to your guy? Because you fully plan to bet against him. That it's in your best interest that he loses in some way. Or someone's got a gun against my family's head unless this boxer loses, right? Threats and everything. There's got to be a reason for this because no sensible person, if they released all the burglars from jail, right? And you lived right, and this is fun, this is like Brighton Park, right? Right across the bridge, go across California Bridge, right? Go across the bridge, California. You're right there. You're right there at 26th, right? So they cross over the bridge, they walk in, and they just got released from jail, and they're heading south down California. And they're burglars. So what did they do? They hit the garages, that whole area. Garage burglaries, house burglaries. And this are happening at 2 in the morning when they release them from Cook County Jail. It's all happening to them. So why would you open your doors, right? Get rid of your dogs. Leave your doors open. Put all of your expensive stuff out where they could see it. Why would you do that? That's what they're doing now. They just released
because that's how stupid they are. They can't fathom that there's evilness. They can't.
They are the
To
evil.
them, yeah, to them, there's good in everyone because they want to make themselves feel good, even to the detriment of innocent people. They're crackpots. They're mentally unstable.
Yeah, they're smart in one. They're smarter than us, and they're elitist, and they know how we should live. So here's a great thing, right? And again, the people won't know this unless you force the vote. Because if they go back, they go back on their break, right, to go campaign, right? Go campaign. And the first thing the people are going to ask them is, hey, how come you're not keeping this country safe? There's nothing I could do. They're not bringing it up for a vote. I can't pull the money out. There's ways we got to do these things, right? So he doesn't say he's not going to vote for it. He kind of implies that he would, but they're not bringing it up for a vote. It's not my fault, right? Put it up for a vote. Then the people could say, hey, why did you vote against this? Well, I didn't read it and I didn't understand it. Oh, well, okay. Well, all right, we got a call on. Let's see who we got.
Yeah, hi, guys.
Hi,
Great
Larry.
topics today, as always. Great topic.
Hey, Larry.
But my question is, we were talking about the war and all that. One thing is that I think when people often bring up Vietnam and stuff, is that they remember that the Chinese and the Russians were supplying the Vietnamese continuously with weapons, okay, to continue the fight against us, okay?
Yeah.
Whereas I think once you destroy the weapons industry of Iran, that's the end of them, okay? I don't think that they're able to sustain any kind of, that's the other thing. Once you defeat the enemy, think about World War II. We defeated Germany and Japan. Once we knocked out their industries, if they couldn't sustain a war effort, the war was over.
Larry,
okay?
Larry, the Germans were producing more at the end of the war than they did at the beginning.
That is true, but they were not able to. That's correct. Albert Speer said that. That was true. However, the one thing that kept they said what kept you out of the war, what ended the war for Germany, they said, was the Allied bombings. That is correct. They were producing more tanks, but there was no fuel for the tanks.
But they were making synthetic fuel.
They were making that. That's come up, but not to any great degree that would continue to sustain the effort. But be it as it may, my point is this: Iran is not Germany, okay? That was able, to come up with these ideas.
Yeah, well,
what's your opinions?
Germany didn't have the second largest oil deposits in the Mideast. All
okay.
Right? So Iran does. Iran has been. We weren't fighting a proxy war against the Germans for 40 years before World War II. All right? For I would go back 1937. You want to talk about 1937 when the Germans entered the Rhineland. All right?
Yep.
Until 1945. That's 8 years. So they did have like 10 when did Hitler take control? In like 32?
33.
33. Right. So they had 4 years to build up the military. All right. He had 4 years to build up his industry because he was coming out of the Great Depression, right? The end of World War I, the Versailles Treaty, which really bled him dry and everything. And he did it in 4 years, right? He mounted this huge military infrastructure, trained soldiers and everything in that 4 years up until 1937, all right? Now, these guys have been loose since 1979. It is now 2026. That's 47 years that Iran has been unfettered in their building of military. Why did the Soviet Union fall? The Soviet Union came apart based on one thing. The people were tired of working to build tanks and not having a washing machine in their house. Not being able to afford a car, not being able to they had this huge industrial might that was all military focused. All military focused. And the people were sick of it. Same thing in Iran. It's all military and terrorist focused. The people are not getting the benefit of the treasure of that country. The people aren't getting that benefit. All right? That's what's going to overturn it. That takes a while, right? That takes a while. Like North Korea, they are completely separated from reality. The rest of the world, they're isolated. You know, they don't have access to radio, television, internet that isn't absolutely state controlled. Absolutely state controlled. They're not getting any outside information. If it does come in, it's one or two little dissidents there, right? It's not mass scale. What they need is this mass scale dissidence in Iran. You need that mass scale for them to just be sick of the stuff, go into the street, and just, hey, with the military and everything, the difference is that if you're in the military there, you're better treated, right? Because it's a military state. So now you're afraid. Who's got all the guns? Well, the government does. Yeah. All right?
Let me bring up a point here about that, okay?
They just executed, what did they? They executed a wrestler, a Greco-Roman wrestler, like Olympic athlete wrestler, right? They just executed him, hung him because of what he said about the regime. Right? He didn't blow up any buildings. He didn't go on a mass killing spree. He didn't blow up a division headquarters or anything like that. He was a dissident. He spoke something. It might have been in jest, but that regime is so hard-nosed that they take him too. Boom, gone. The end.
I want to bring up one point, okay?
Okay.
When I was in Iraq, Iraq was roughly 22 million people, okay? Now, we estimated, okay, unclassified, that the most Saddam had supporters was 40,000 people.
Key people.
40,000 people were able to take control of 22 million people. Just like Lenin, Lenin never even had more than 70 to 100,000 supporters, yet he was able to take control of 135 million people.
I'll one up you on that, Larry.
Go ahead.
We have a country of what, 338 million?
Like
roughly
that, yeah.
speaking, right? And we've been controlled by 535 or 535, right?
Right, 535.
535 people. All right?
Yeah.
So same thing here. The difference is the frosting they put on everything. We got a lot of frosting in the United States. Over there in Iran and Iraq, they're not getting a lot of frosting. But yeah, and you know, Saddam Hussein was a Sunni, right? He was Sunni.
He was.
Probably non-practicing, right? But who's got the majority in Iraq? The Shias.
Shiites.
All right? But he had the political control. He had the control of the military. He had people in key places. Why did Stalin take over instead of Trotsky when Lenin died? Because Stalin had the key people in place. He was head of personnel. He put his people where he wanted them. Trotsky was nuts there looking for world communism, you know, the leader of the Great Red Army and everything. And he's looking to expand communism through Poland, to, you know, go get to Paris, then get to London, then get to New York and everything. And he's pushing for all this stuff, and he's not focusing on his infrastructure. And as soon as Lenin died, here comes Stalin, took over. Boom. Why did Khrushchev take over after Stalin?
Because they shot like Lavrentiy.
Well, he had the key people. He was he knew who to take out. The thing with Khrushchev is he didn't go far enough. People said, "Oh, they went too far." No, Khrushchev stopped killing the Stalinists. He should have ended every single one of them because Khrushchev was more progressive. All right, well, progressive. That's funny, but he, from the communist point of view, he wanted more liberalization. The people that get more, you know. All right, so when we're going to be we're coming up on commercial break here, and I hope I'm making sense. I hope I'm not bouncing off the walls with this.
Well, I mean, yeah, you are. You guys are the best. I'd say anybody who doesn't listen to you guys on Saturday is crazy. You guys are the best.
Thanks.
Best thing on radio.
Well,
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Larry.
Bye, Larry.
Want to read some action-packed, exciting pulp fiction? Read the works of Michael Tooman, now featuring their international crime thriller, I Married a Bot Madam. Available on Amazon in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle editions. The paperback is also available at other book retailers. Check out Michael Tooman's webpage at Scilink.net. That's Papa, Sierra, Yankee, Lima, India, November, Kilo. November Echo Tango. Join your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvid on our weekly radio hour, Chief Guard of the Republic, where we talk about all things national security, defense, personal security, safety, and dealing with law enforcement situations. Call in 847-931-1410. Ask us questions. We will get you answers. Every week, Saturday, noon to 1 on 1410 AM WRMN Elgin. Streaming on WRMN1410.com. Chat with us on WRMN's YouTube Live channel.
Your hometown radio station since 1949. We are WRMN AM 1410, Elgin time, 1 o'clock.
Breaking news at Town Hall. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. Even as President Trump hints he'd like to bring an end to the war in Iran, Iran has no plans to ease its attacks on the global energy supply.
We're seeing continued attacks on energy infrastructure across the Gulf Arab states. It just puts more pressure on global energy prices that seem to only be going up. The top military spokesman there issued a statement warning that Iran's enemies would not be safe on beaches or recreational areas anywhere around the world. This is a threat that analysts have been warning about, that Iran could return to using militant attacks abroad.
That's correspondent John Gambrell. Former Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin strongly backs the U.S. in its conflict with Iran.
We have to see this through to comprehensive victory. There's no half measure here. And therefore, I am so proud of the men and women who serve the American Armed Forces. They are the best in the world, the best it has ever been. And they will, in fact, do the duty that needs to be done, which is a comprehensive victory.
And that is former Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin. A bill that would have funded Homeland Security came up short again in the Senate.
Pressure is growing as lines get longer at airports and TSA workers aren't getting paid. Democrats did not provide the support needed to move the funding measure toward final passage. Washington Democrat Patty Murray says after the deaths of 2 people in Minneapolis, the focus is on cleaning up ICE.
The American people have had enough of this rogue agency.
North Dakota Republican John Hoeven says the Trump administration has made a real common sense good offer.
As people understand what's on the table.
A report from Mike Kemp and Robert S. Mueller, the FBI director who transformed the nation's premier law enforcement agency into a terrorism fighting force after the September 11th, 2001 attacks, has died. He was 81. This is SRN News.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-555-2085. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-555-2085. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-555-2085. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. Call 800-555-2085 or biglou.com.
Georgia has become the first state to suspend its own fuel taxes after the war in Iran sent pump prices soaring.
Republican Governor Brian Kemp signed into law a 60-day suspension of the state's 33 cents per gallon tax on gas and 37 cents per gallon tax on diesel. Motorists are likely to start getting relief in the coming days as the price cuts trickle through from wholesalers to gas stations. In Maryland, House and Senate Republicans are pressing for a 30-day gas tax holiday.
That's Bill Alexander reporting. Hiya Punjabi reports on damaging flooding that's hitting Hawaii.
Muddy floodwaters from severe rains have inundated streets, swallowed vehicles, and prompted evacuation orders for thousands of people in towns north of Honolulu. Officials have been watching dam levels since a storm last week dumped heavy rain across the state, which led to catastrophic flooding that washed away roads and homes. I'm Haya Panjwani.
Breaking news and analysis at townhall.com. The DEA and U.S. prosecutors are probing alleged ties between the president of Colombia and the illegal drug trade.
During investigations by prosecutors in New York, drug traffickers allege representatives for President Gustavo Petro solicited bribes in exchange for blocking their extradition to the United States. Records indicate the DEA has investigated Petro going back to 2022 for possible dealings with drug traffickers in Mexico's Sinaloa cartel. I'm Jennifer King.
Economist Steve Moore with the Committee to Unleash Prosperity says government fraud is a big problem.
There is easily hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars that we could save by eliminating fraud and duplication, and where you've just got basically incompetence in government.
Moore says the losses could tally between $200 and $500 billion each year. He spoke with the Salem Radio Network this week. More of these stories at townhall.com.
Looking to buy or sell a home in Chicagoland? Need trusted legal help with real estate, evictions, or estate planning? Turn to Guthrie & Brady, the happy lawyers serving the greater Chicago area since 1965. With over 50 years of experience, they handle titles and deeds, foreclosures, landlord-tenant issues, wills, trusts, and more. Appointments available evenings or weekends at their Roselle office or right in your home. Call Guthrie & Brady now at 847-524-1215. That's 847-524-1215. Or visit gnblegal.com. Guthrie & Brady, personal, professional, affordable legal services for all of Chicagoland. The happy lawyers since 1965. That's gnblegal.com. Or 847-524-1215. Guthrie & Brady, trusted legal help made easy, fast, affordable, and experienced. Call today.
Fix Bandits, comrades, this is Chief Guard Republic Radio Show with your co-hosts Mike Tuman and Paul Burvitt. Every Saturday, noon until 2. We're in the second half of the hour here at WRMN 1410. You can follow us on WRMN 1410's YouTube live channel, and you can make comments there. Just like Brendan out there. How you doing, Brendan? We got Cleveland Dennis
Dean.
out there. We got
Dean, Dennis,
you got
Jeff
and Scale,
Carla.
you know. And so a shout out here to this is radio shout out, Veterans Radio Shout Out Show. Kind of started that way. Dunkin' Donuts veterans every Tuesday morning get their, it starts at 9 on the dot. Right on the dot, we say the Pledge of Allegiance and everything. Over 100 veterans there. You get there at 8:30. Get some coffee, get some donuts. They got big room there. You can get a chair early so you're not carrying one in from outside and everything. But it's a good time, 7039 West on Dempster, all right, in Niles, the Dunkin' Donuts there, just east of Harlem. And then a shout out to a great man, a veteran, Air Force veteran. Who is it, Paul?
Chuck Norris.
Chuck Norris, yeah. And the Air Force veteran,
He's he's a friend of mine, believe it or not.
Yeah.
I worked for a guy named Joe Kurland. He was in charge of Branch 48, and his daughter was the producer on Walker, Texas Ranger. So he he always liked people that were like involved in like the military and government. He wanted to get me an autograph. So my boss used to call me Big Cat. Okay, and then but by the time the request got transmitted to Chuck, it came out as the Big Dog. Okay, so he gave me a personal autograph photograph of him and his Walker Texas Ranger thing, and I've always kind of held that really personally close to me. So it's truly sad. And like I said, a couple of my friends said that they heard he died in a foreign country. I said, no, it was Hawaii. And I said, the story that I heard is when he died, he kicked the pearly gates open and he said, I'm here. So that's a wonderful guy and a wonderful veteran.
You know the meme with the angel of death and the claw game, right?
Yeah,
and whenever a celebrity dies, they pull him out, and the angel of death either goes, is George Soros even in this thing, or is Jane Fonda even in this thing? Because he's getting some other celebrity. This one, the angel of death goes, Chuck Norris. Oh, he's gonna kill me. Yeah, so that was a pretty good twist on that. It only took a couple seconds for that to come up too. Yeah, it's sad because so I'm this Homeland Security thing, the defunding of it. All right, so this is how silly it is, and this is how, because they're like, oh, we want to pass this bill, but we only want to fund TSA or whatever, right? TSA and Secret Service, and they're picking and choosing the departments in Homeland Security. Although, again, like I said, they're all in the type of the U.S. Code. All these things are in the U.S. Code. It's written into the U.S. Code. If you don't like it, put in a bill. Put in a bill, Schumer. Sponsor a bill to eliminate ICE. Go ahead, do it. Do it. Dumbest thing in the world, right? Oh, we don't like the way ICE is working. They're following the rules as we wrote them. Rewrite the rules. Say what they can and can't do. Put it very specifically. So now, when the tax bills come out, right, and they show me how much I own, then the government should put out, right, what all these taxes are going through. Oh, this is going to this is going to that. And then I just line item out the stuff that I don't want to pay for. Then I readjust my taxes, and I only send the money for the stuff I want to pay for, right? And everyone should be able to do that with their taxes. Tell us exactly what percentage this stuff goes through for each department, and I will cross it off. For each agency under the department. Well, we want to fund. Nah, don't want to pay for that. The congressional coffee house or whatever, coffee room, break room. Nope, not paying for that. Right? That seems silly. It seems silly because everyone would cross everything out and say, I'm not paying taxes at all. But here they are saying, this is Department of Homeland Security, as in the law. We don't want to fund it because we don't like what's happening with ICE and Border Patrol, which the press has been complicit on villainizing. They've made villains out of heroes. That's what they do. That's what Hollywood does, right? Remember when the good guys used to be the cowboys, the cavalry, and everything else? And then Hollywood started making vampire movies? Vampires are soulless hell beings, right? They're Satan, right? They're evil. Werewolves, cursed, evil. They're making them heroes, right? And then they make movies about angels, actual angels that are evil, as opposed to the fallen angels, like, making like Gabriel look bad. They make stories about Gabriel being a bad guy in the, a bunch of movies about that. They flipping the script. They're confusing simple people, right? Well, that's what the press has done, because they're taking playbook. They're taking the good guys, the police. They'll never do it with the firemen. They'll never do it with the firemen. Right? We had backdraft. That was one guy. One guy. Wasn't the whole fire department. It was the fire department that caught him too, right? In that movie. But they're vilifying the people and they're getting all spun up with it. And now, without actually having to vote on this stuff, right? They're trying to get their way because, they want to say, see, we're your heroes. We got rid of this Customs and Border Patrol and ICE. And meanwhile, the press is covering up all the people that are being robbed, all the jobs that are being lost to illegal labor. All right? They're covering up all the auto thefts, right? They're covering up why your insurance is so much more. They're covering up all that stuff that would be, a lot of that would be solved by just getting rid of criminal illegals, right? Oh, but what about this guy that isn't a criminal and everything? They're going after those good working people. I'm like, oh, well, they're criminals because they're working. Right? Do they got a green card? Is it in the law? Is it in the law? All right. Again, who has the ability to? Can the president, other than you have the executive orders, right? Those are orders. It's not a law, right? It's his order that he does as the executive branch. He's given an order as the leader of the executive branch. He cannot do an executive order that changes the Constitution or goes specifically against the Constitution. He can't do that. I mean, they have tests of it where he says something, where they say something, and then someone sues or a judge puts an injunction on it, and then it crawls its way through the Supreme Court. And, 12 years later, the Supreme Court goes, oh, no, that was constitutional. Okay? But it's these congressmen. You don't like it. If you think the American people support it so much, support your show. If you think you got the 51% solution, then put a bill in. Let everyone see that you sponsor a bill. Chuck Schumer sponsors a bill to eliminate ICE and to eliminate Customs and Border Patrol completely out of the system. Wipe it out of the system, right? Take it all out of the laws. Amend all those laws. Sponsor that bill. Put your name on it in front of everyone, right? And see what the press does with it. Well, that's not really what he meant. Yeah, no, it's in writing. It is. At that point, right? He's never going to do that. They're never going to do that. Put it up for a vote. Put their money. Don't give me this stuff, right? Here's, Paul, when you were saying like they get 68% of what they want and they're good with it, right?
Yeah.
But the other thing is they circle the wagons. They massively circle the wagons. You really have to strong arm them and say, your federal district is on edge. They're on edge. We could primary you out, or we can not primary you, but we put in a strong candidate and we'll throw a ton of money just to get you out of office. We don't care about anyone else. You're the guy we're going after. Put a gun to us. That's a literal political gun. Vote with us. Most of your constituents will be with us because most of your constituents, 75% of your constituents are with us. You just got 51% of the illegal votes of the wrong vote. You got elected because you had the scam in, right? You had the power of the machine behind you. But 75% of your constituents are for this. They're absolutely for this. So we will send all of our attorneys there on election day, all of them, to watch every single poll in your district to make sure that everything's up and up, and we're going to kick you out. And those are the guys that come along and go, whoa, well, I'm going to vote with them on this, only because they were strong-armed into it. They made fun of the guy, and I kind of looked at him, and I says, this guy's kind of a goof and everything. And John Fetterman, right? She's showing up in a hoodie and shorts, but he's the most reasonable guy they got. He won't circle the wagons when it's stupid, but he knows his Senate seat is on edge. He won because Oz opened his big mouth. All right? Oz answered a loaded question. Flat out. And he got canned for it. It was a pro-life question. Had he answered it, oh, I'm absolutely pro-life, he would have won the election. When he said it's between a doctor and a woman and her doctor, not a woman and her creator, not a woman and the rest of her family that it all affects, right? Not a woman and her husband, not a woman and the father of the child, none of that. A woman and a doctor, because he's a doctor and he's got that elitist tone to it too, right? Doctors know better. You know what I've seen doctors do? I've seen doctors, what symptoms do you have? Type in the symptoms of the computer tells them what dope to give you. You know? Okay, take this. Okay. Is that, that's not really being scientific about anything. That's letting the AI, and they used to have, before the computers, they had the big books. You ever see them? The big medical books? And that's just a symptom checker. What symptoms you got, and then you go to an index, and it points you at the dope that you're supposed to take. So, yeah, that right there, the cowardice of not putting it up for a vote, right? The cowardice, the non-leadership of being able to whip these votes into place. That's why they say minority whip and majority whip. You want to get something passed, you got to get the people circled wagons. Not so hard to do for the Democrats anymore. Unless they can actually see the SAVE Act. I think the SAVE Act, why would they vote against their constituents, Paul? The simplest answer.
They wouldn't, usually.
Well, you wouldn't if your constituents elected you. But if you know you're going to be reelected because the party's going to, the machine is going to put you back in so long as you toe the line with the machine, right? And it's the machine that's electing you and not your constituents, because your constituents certainly wouldn't vote for your policies. You know, if you had a free election, if we had a free election in Iran right now and it was majority rule, right? And it was absolutely free. And they knew, the Iranian people knew, that as soon as the election was over, that these guys were going to be put on a bus, just taken out of office, stripped of their weapons, stripped of all their power, no military connections or anything. Do you think they would vote to keep those guys in place?
No.
No. Same thing in the United States. They say, oh, that's Iran and everything. No. It's this machine of the voter fraud. That's why you need that SAVE Act in there, right? And it's simple. Prove you're a citizen to vote. You could be the poorest citizen in the United States. What makes you equal to everyone isn't the 6-gun. All right? Because someone will have a 7-gun. All right? It isn't that. What makes you equal to everyone else in the United States is your vote, is your franchise and that vote. You don't have a penny to your name, but you got your ID. You proved that you vote, even if you don't have the ID, right? You go apply for the lost ID if you want to vote. You go get it, right? That's what you have. Now, when they let an illegal person vote in the same polling place as you do, that person, if they vote against your vote, they just stole your vote away. They stole the only thing you have left. The only thing. They stole it. And you should be pissed off at that. Everyone should be angry that their votes are being stolen. The only people that aren't angry are the few people that say, oh, my vote is being amplified. These people think the same way I do, so I want them. They don't think the same way you do. They don't. They don't. Yeah. What they did. So bring this stuff to a vote to let the people know to let these people. Oh, this is the funniest thing in the world, right? Chuck Schumer says, oh, they're going to prevent women from voting because they got married and changed their names. So Chuck Schumer just called every married woman out there stupid.
They're calling all their people stupid.
Yeah. But people don't realize what they're... I'm going to lose my favorite one. They're going to cut your Social Security off, Granny. Oh! They've been saying that for how many years now? They're going to tax the snot out. They're going to tax the snot out of your Social Security. And here, President Trump puts in and says he wants that tax-free. He wants he wants tips, and all these workers, not all of them, right? I'm not throwing everyone together, but a lot of their voters would benefit from these policies, right? But they're against it. They're against it because it makes people more independent of government. But when Granny and everyone else hears these guys screaming that they're going to cut your Social Security, it's like the big boogeyman, right? They're going running to I won't cut your Social Security, and then what do? They raise taxes on Social Security, thereby cutting your Social Security. So they just did exactly what they said they wanted to. Joe Biden to the oil pipeline workers, right?
Right.
I'm not gonna. That's a bunch of garbage. I'm not gonna do that. I absolutely won't do that. He's lying. First day in office, you're all fired. Oh, I caught in my headphone wire. No, I'm good now. So, but until he got in office, now they saw that, right? They saw that. Barack Obama with the coal industry, right? Oh, no, I'm not going to eliminate your coal jobs. What does he do? Put so many federal regulations on top of it that they all shut down. These guys are all out of work. Well, I didn't shut down your job. I just put regulations to make everything better. The same effect. Tax Social Security, you're cutting Social Security. Don't tax Social Security, you're raising people's Social Security. But how are you going to pay for that? You shouldn't have to pay for it because Social Security should pay for itself. All right, so I'm trying to make the point here that my main point is force these guys to vote. If Thune sends them on vacation, what do you call it?
Like a furlough?
Yeah, if Thune sends them out and says, oh, go back and, you guys got to go back and, especially with the congressmen, you guys got to go, we got to go back because it's time for us to politic to get elected into office right around November. And you go, nah, calling you back in session. Come here. And I'm going to put so much stuff as the president, I'm going to have my sidekicks in Congress, right? One or two sidekicks. There's 435 of them in the House of Representatives. One of them's got to be seeing things my way. And I'm going to have a whole list of bills stacked up that I've already pre-made, right? We call it pre-pack. In PSYOPs, we call it pre-pack. This stuff is already made up. It was made up years ago, right? We're just using it up now. I'd have all this pre-packed stuff there, and I'd be submitting it all and putting it up to a vote. Well, it's got to go to committee. Nah, motion that we keep it out of committee. We just discuss it here on the floor. Pass all this crazy stuff I want, because if people don't show up, if these other people aren't showing up, right, they can't vote. So I get the majority because the people there are the ones that are voting. There's no proxy voting. There's no voting by telephone. It's just going to be, first I get there, say, I motion that we have no proxy voting. Force them to vote on this stuff or get everything else. You remember you said 68%? I'm going to have stuff lined up. I'm going to have 68% on there. And it'll be like executive order things, right? First thing right out there, one bill. Tips, right? Tips will be non-taxable, will not be considered taxable income, right? Just, you cannot, and then define a tip, go tip, right? Then you have a good legal definition of it that cannot be misinterpreted like shall not be infringed, right? Can't be misinterpreted like shall not be infringed. Can't be that way, right? And so just pass them through. Force these guys. You got to kind of psyop them too, but don't make idle threats. Be ready to go. And when they realize that you're ready to go with that, maybe they'll be more reasonable. They fear having to vote on this Homeland Security thing because they've already demonized these guys. So it makes them look to their 20% of the nutbags out there that they're voting for the great devil, right? Because they've been demonized by the press and everything. And the other one for voter ID. They're afraid. They're absolutely terrified of having to vote no on that.
I am a non-attorney spokesperson representing a team of lawyers who help people that have been injured or wronged. If you've been involved in a serious car, truck, or motorcycle accident or injured at work, you have rights, and you may be entitled to money for your suffering. Don't accept an offer you get from an insurance company until you talk to a lawyer. And we represent some of the best personal injury lawyers you can find. Tough lawyers that will fight to win your case. And they're so good they stake their reputation on it by only getting paid if you win. So if you've been in a serious car, truck, or motorcycle accident or hurt on the job, find out today for free what kind of compensation you may be entitled to. Call the legal helpline right now.
800-257-3148. 800-257-3148. 800-257-3148. That's 800-257-3148.
If you've turned 65 recently like me, it's important you find a Medicare Advantage plan that gives you the coverage you're looking for. But finding one can be difficult. The best thing I did, and I suggest you do the same, is call a licensed insurance agent and let them walk you through your Medicare Advantage plan options. There are so many benefits you have access to, so make the call now and let the representatives explain everything to you. Our licensed insurance agents can offer you a variety of Medicare Advantage plans. Plus, the call is free, the information is free, and there's no obligation to enroll. We're here to make it easy for you to select a Medicare Advantage plan that may work for your needs. Finding a Medicare Advantage plan can be easy if you do what I did. Make a quick call right now to learn more. Thank you.
800-433-3082. 800-433-3082. 800-433-3082. That's 800-433-3082.
Did you get a call or message that mentioned Social Security that made you feel threatened or scared? That is not the Social Security Administration. Social Security will not threaten you, press you for personal information, or demand instant payment. Social Security does not accept payments by gift card, prepaid debit card, internet currency, or by mailing cash. Criminals use these forms of payment because they are hard to trace. Don't fall for it. Hang up, ignore them. Report this criminal activity to oig.ssa.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Why'd I go to the doctor? Working on the farm, my heart kept skipping a beat. I didn't think much of it, but my daughters made me get checked out. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit notimetowait.com. Sponsored by Bristol Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Here on WRMN AM 1410, we like to keep you informed and in tune to what's happening here in the Fox River Valley and what's going on here on WRMN. We recognize the importance of local radio to be a part of the conversation and to be a part of the community for the community.
You know, we talked about the importance of community theater, but supporting community radio is a big deal too. And, you know, for WRMN, this is a really cool thing that you guys do every day, and a really important thing. You have to have a local media outlet to talk about what's going on in your town. So you guys do a nice job.
Tune in to AM 1410, WRMN. Don't forget, you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/WRMN Radio. Keep in tune and informed on what's happening here in the Fox River Valley, right here on WRMN.
Fix Bayonets, comrades. This is the last quarter of the Chief Guard of the Republic radio show with your co-hosts Mike Tuman and Paul Burvin. Every Saturday, noon until 2, we're on the 75% bottom, 25% heading towards 2 p.m. And you could call us in here, as Larry did, at 847-931-1410. You could text us. I think I got a text way back, but this thing, you know, on Fridays. That's the last time I see it, and today's Saturday. And you could at 505-926-1410 or hit us up in the comments on the YouTube Live channel. And like I said, if you want to stream it, you're going to have to use one of the radio streaming apps because the website's a little challenged right now. Right? And all right, Paul, so I think I've beaten that down enough, right? And the one, what was I originally want? I needed your legal expertise on something.
The laws, new gun laws in Virginia.
Yeah. Again, all these things have been tried and true and tested through the Supreme Court ad nauseum, right? It should be obvious to everyone what legal measures they can take, right? What legal measures they can take shall not be infringed, right? Shall not be infringed, shall not. But they pass these laws knowing full well that they're going to be challenged and they're going to lose. But there's going to be no class action lawsuit or anything that's going to force these government, these elected officials to pay up out of their pocket. Because when they pay up, who are they paying? Whose pockets are they paying up with?
Money.
Ours. Our money. They tax us to pay for their mistakes, knowing that they're making a mistake, right? And here, this is the great thing, you know. Here's Virginia. They should change, you know, what, Virginia's for lovers. I guess that's the motto or whatever, right? They should change it to the home of the deep state. Because that's, you know, you got a lot of rural areas in Virginia, but much like Chicago, no one listens to the rural areas. So you have Alexandria, you have all the suburbs around Washington, D.C., where all these political insiders and people work. So they elect themselves in a nice, you know, openly communist governor in a state that if you took out like within if you took out all of the people that live within 5 miles of Washington, D.C. and Virginia, right? You took them all out. They would never elect anyone but a hardcore conservative because these guys are, you know, it's still a rural state. It's like Illinois, right? But they passed that, and she signs it into law, right? And here's the thing. She signed it into law. So now everyone knows what she is, right? What she's about. Will she get reelected unless there's a grassroots, all right, a farming grassroots? Again, the SAVE Act. But the SAVE Act only applies to would only apply to federal elections, right, Paul?
Right.
So they can't tell the states how to run their elections. So the states can still let everyone in their illegal alien brother vote, whether they're a citizen or not, whether they're a convicted felon or not. Some states let convicted felons vote from prison. So that's what they're doing, to placate their feels, right? Her feels. Yeah, there's some, why do you have to make it a law for common sense, right? Common sense. Don't give a gun to a child without proper training and that the child has understanding of the dangers. You could train a kid all day long. She could be a little Annie Oakley, right? She could, shoot a flea off a fly's butt, right, from 100 yards. But she has no idea of the danger that she's holding or the danger it poses to others, right? That's common sense, right? Don't leave your guns laying about where anyone and their brother can pick them up. Common sense. I was investigating what ended up being a suicide. And one of the things, I thought this guy was a pretty decent person, right? And I said, if I was to end myself, which I won't do, right? I love the suffering. I live for the suffering. Speaking of which, I just got a Charlie horse. That's funny. Just as I said that, I got a Charlie horse. Okay, so I said, if I was going to do it, I would go to the trunk of my car. I got a Jeep now, but if I had a car with a trunk in it, I would lock myself in the trunk of my car and lay out some nice, I wouldn't want to ruin the truck, the car too much, so my kids could still sell it or whatever. Lay out some, a tarp, then do myself in the trunk. That way, my firearm is still secured. Right? So I found this guy's car keys, and no, he wasn't in his trunk. He wasn't. But, you can't find the guy anywhere. Maybe he's in the trunk. And that's the same guy, right, that they, caused a lot of problems. They pulled him out of Montrose Harbor, right? And he had a hole in his head. A hole in his head. And they said, they wrote it off. They wrote it off as like an accidental death, and that it was they wrote it off as like a drowning suicide, right? And that it was rebar in Montrose Harbor that drove the hole in his head. He didn't stick to the rebar. It just put a hole clean through his head, and then he managed to float off, right? But his gun was missing. So when they wanted me to close it, I says, I can't close it. He says, what? It's a suicide by firearm, and the firearm isn't there. There's no firearm. So how do you know someone didn't just shoot him in the head and dump him in Montrose Harbor and walk away with the firearm? He could have been murdered. But if I had the firearm like in his hand, then I'm like, or near where they're not going to die for that either, Now there's reasonableness involved in that one, but the general order said, right? If it's a suicide by gun and there's no gun there, you can't close it as a suicide. Unless the lieutenant screams at you and orders you to do it. Okay, whatever you say, lieutenant, no problem. Your sergeant's going to approve it anyways. Especially when I put in the narrative, no firearm recovered. Nah, nothing came back on me. So why do we have to litigate common sense?
Because they're anti-gun, and they want to ban it all over the country. Even when the Supreme Court makes a ruling, they still pass the same kind of laws that would, in theory, go against the ruling. I remember when they did it in Illinois, when they finally told them that they had to have concealed carry, they said the Constitution doesn't apply to Chicago and Illinois. Well, of course it does. So in this Virginia thing, it's kind of interesting because they're trying to do the same thing that Illinois did. They're taking the most commonly used firearm by law-abiding citizens, and they're banning them if they have magazines over 15 rounds, and they don't allow people from 18 to 21 to have firearms, where a lot of states have at 18. I think Illinois recently changed that.
So with that, wait, I got a question on this one. All right. So all the National Guard and reserve members and active duty members in those states, because the policy in the Department of Defense is that you obey the laws of the state that your base is in. So that's how they took, I went to basic training. I wasn't 21. I was allowed to drink. I could get beer and everything, right? But is there any federal age limit on your Second Amendment right?
Federally, it's 21 for a handgun and 18 for a rifle.
Yeah. All right. So you can't give an MP that's 18 years old in the Army a handgun in the state of Illinois then.
That would be in essence true.
Yeah. See, again, you're 18 years old. You're going to go to war. You're considered an adult in court. If you're 18 years old, when are you not considered an adult in court, Paul?
You're really not.
If you're declared incompetent, right?
Right. Yeah.
So you're considered a child in the eyes of the law because you're incompetent. That's
right.
Would they let a person declared legally incompetent join the military?
They shouldn't.
So see, that's stupid. We don't want these kids running around with guns because they're immature. Well, then don't draft them till they're 21. Don't let them join the military till they're 21.
Well, all of this stuff, it's kind of amazing, because the next one, it outlaws the carrying or transporting of common firearms in public. This includes semi-automatic rifles and pistols that, now listen to this now, that have a fixed magazine with over 10 rounds. Now, you'll recall that the broom handle Mauser has a fixed magazine, and it's not over 10 rounds, most of them. And the SKS. Now, what's interesting about that is there was like a semi-automatic gun ban under the Bush administration, but prior to that, during the Clinton administration, I guess during the Clinton administration, they allowed SKSs to be imported, and those are fixed magazine rifles, and they got a lot of them from China.
Yes,
which is kind of
well. You could actually. There's actually kits to remove the bottom plate on those.
Yeah.
And to make it where you could feed a magazine, like an AK magazine into it.
But by and large, most of them had 10 rounds.
Yes.
So the funny thing is, a weapon designed for battle, which really wasn't used in too many battles though, but did comply with the law. And then they also, if you have a standard magazine of 20 rounds, a folding stock, suppressors, those are banned. And then it prohibits the purchase of firearms by anybody under the age of 21, again. And then and what's bad is, say in your state you were 18 and you could buy a rifle. Now they change it so it's illegal even if you bought it when it was legal now, that's concerning. And then they also have restrictions on the ability of law-abiding citizens on where they keep it in their vehicle. And then, of course, they ban ghost guns. which are guns that can be made with a pre-made 90 or 80% frame without a serial number, or those that are 3D printed. And it jeopardizes the reciprocity of the Virginia concealed carry with other states. And then the big thing is, and the real motive for all this, is to allow these states to sue gun manufacturers in other states. And then there's where you could carry them at institutions of higher learning, and then carrying them at a hospital facility that has a mental health component, and then they don't recognize the NRA trainings as part of your training for your concealed carry. Now, there are a lot of stuff that didn't pass, but what's interesting, what also passed was that they could now apply for concealed carry permits online, not in writing. And it allows the family member of a law enforcement officer to purchase their weapon for $1.
Why can't I just leave it to my kid?
Yeah, but no, I think in those states that they might be owned by the state itself. So the survivor will be able, as a memento, be able to keep the weapon, but they have to purchase it for $1. Now that's kind of interesting because I'm sure it would still require a federal transfer, so you would still have to comply with whatever the federal rules are.
Yeah. Well,
and in that case, it actually might violate their own law because it would have more than 15 rounds. Yeah. So it's kind of weird.
Unless they're going to here. Okay, good for the goose, good for the gander. All right. So, you know, the Second Amendment, and I've said this before. Right. Okay. So now all your law enforcement officials have to, all your law enforcement agencies have to abide by the same thing. So now you have police officers out there that have 10 rounds. That's it. You don't got these double stacked like a Beretta, 15 rounds, right? 14 in the magazine, one in the 16. Yeah, 15 in the magazine, one in the tube, right? Got 16 rounds in that sucker, right? So take the Berettas away, take the Glocks away, single stack only, less than 10 rounds. There you go. There you go, buddy. Give that to all your police officers. Issue it to them. But,
well, you know,
they're not going to do that.
Well, this is kind of weird because I think it's New Jersey, and they passed the rule. This is really weird that the police can have 15-round magazines, but only when they're on duty. So that means that when they're going
you're on duty
7/24. Yeah, well, but it means when they're going to and from work, they have to put in a 10-round magazine.
All right, here's the thing, though. All right, so now, since I'm only considered, here's where the argument would be. You know, argumentative debater there. I'm like, okay, so I see a terrorist killing a bunch of people, but I'm on my way to work. So I take no action because I'm off duty. Now, how do you know I'm off duty? Because I got a 10-round magazine. I leave my 15-round magazines in the locker at work, so I can't be stopped by my own police department and locked up on my way home. So what do I do now? I only got 10 rounds. I'm a good citizen. I'm a citizen. I'm not obligated to put my life at risk or anything. But when I was under the police department, right, they said, you're required 7 and 24 to carry, when it first came on, to carry that thing, to carry that gun, even when you're off duty. Because you're not really off duty, because you're required to take positive police action if you see something. Right? You know, you get what I mean, right? So who's going to describe what on duty and off duty is, where the limits of my power be? And here, now you get sued because You know, you walked by because you're off duty, but everyone knows you're a police officer. Why didn't you do anything? Well, I'm off duty. No, you never.
Yeah.
Up.
That's a true catch-22.
Yeah, and they don't see. Did you hear? Is this a rumor? I don't. I know I'm a member of the Illinois Rifle Association and everything, but the rumor I heard that Pritzker's pushing through a law for him to sign that's going to require serial numbers on all bullets sold in Illinois.
That is a proposal, yeah.
So they all have to be jacketed to the point, or the serial number would have to be on some part that doesn't hit the rifling?
It would be on, actually what it would be on the case. There would be micro printing on the case, I guess.
But how do you match the case to the bullet?
Maybe it would be on that too. Who knows?
It's.
I think they would be more looking for, you know, who knows? Or they could issue them with in the you know, behind the what they call the gas check. They could be stamped on the inside of the bullet.
Yeah.
Behind the powder.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Paul. All right, here's when you got kids or you're in charge of a group of people, right? Now they're afraid of us. They're absolutely terrified of us. These politicians, they're absolutely terrified. You know, so my daughter wanted to move into an apartment with her buddies, and this is when she's going through college, and she wanted me to co-sign the lease agreement. I says, because none of them had credit and none of their other parents would sign this thing, right? Mm-hmm. So I says, soon as you show me in cash, the last month's rent and the security deposit, show me that in cash, that you've got that money already good to go. And then I will co-sign, right? So I gave her a task I knew she couldn't. I didn't say no. I didn't say absolutely not. I just made what I knew to be almost it's reasonable. Seems reasonable to you, right, Paul?
Right.
It's reasonable, but I knew at the time it was impossible for her, right? So I said no without saying no.
Right.
So here's what they're trying to do. In Virginia and in Illinois, they're saying no without saying no. They're making it so ridiculous, right? You know, so ridiculous that no one's going to want to go through all this effort, or no one's going to want to be under that type of scrutiny, because they don't want you to have the weapons in the first place, because they're terrified of you. So they're finding every little way, or they don't want you to have access to your weapon. So you can only keep your weapon certain places in your car. Can you keep it on your person in the car? Because if I'm driving and I'm going to be carjacked, right? I don't want to have to go into my glove compartment. Oh, wait a second, sir. I need to go into my glove compartment and get you my registration and everything. So if you're stopped by the police, they'll know that that you have this stuff, and then pull out the gun, or under the seat. I want that thing on my person. If not, in my lap. If I'm going through a crappy area, that thing is ready to go. Is that reasonable? Because why am I carrying a gun?
Well, the way they wrote our concealed carry isn't reasonable, you know, and you know, the funny thing is, you know, again, they've said that you have to have it in a lock, in an enclosed case, which is either a zippered case, the glove compartment, the center console, a safe, or anything like that. So, you know, I mean, and the way they have it, you have to leave it in the car if you're at certain places. It makes no sense. It really does. But, you know, they're big talkers. You know, they're big talkers, and they don't understand the law of unintended consequences. You know, I mean, then about several years after they passed it, they were trying to require that you keep a registry of all the people that are involved in shooting with the concealed carry, and you go into their training and everything. It's just crazy.
Yeah, they're making it so convoluted and so overboard, But yet, you could be an illegal alien, go down the street to Joe Schmuck, who's selling his car with a for sale sign in it, hand him $100 or $1,000 for the car, right? And drive away without a driver's license, without registration, without insurance, without any of that. Right. Easy peasy. And when they pull you over, what do you get charged with? You get charged with not even a misdemeanor. Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Have a great week.
Have a great week. See you next week for the Chief Guard of the Republic radio show.